Hello, Sentinels, and by that I mean anybody that's over 26, and if you have ADHD, it could possibly be until 30. That means your prefrontal cortex is basically finished developing, and whatever you've got then, and if you still have ADHD, that is what you've got to work with. So it's about drug-free ADHD and super focus, and that applies to normal people too. And this is, as always, sponsored by LeadersTribe.tv. And today I'm going to be talking about something that actually is quite close to my heart, and also Jonathan Mooney's, would you believe it? How we ended up agreeing with each other, I'm not too sure, but there we go. He basically purports a simple thing, which is that what I believe, there's no such thing as neurotypical. That means there's no such thing as normal. Surprise, surprise. But I also believe that where people have been saying things like the DSM-5, etc., and the thicker it's actually getting, that what is considered to be normal, and where we're basically making more and more diseases or disorders out of the world that we have and exist in, I think is quite ridiculous. I think it's the simple fact that this is what human beings have always been. And what I'm going to be talking about at the moment, where Jonathan and I do actually agree on something, and that is basically the fact that we should all be looking for an environment that we all thrive in. Now, that for very often, for most people, and I say that because that's sort of 10% of the population, 5 to 10% of the population, depending on who you're looking at, and they are excluded in some manner, shape or form, because it isn't taken into consideration that the environment that they thrive in. So, for example, one that most people don't even actually notice these days is wheelchair access to places. Now, it's not a disability as such until you can't get somewhere with a wheelchair. And why we can't actually build a society, build an environment where we have access to all the different places and spaces as a modern society, or in the way it's going at the moment, a global society, then I don't understand that. Now, if you have ADHD, and here I'm getting back to where it's a person to us, is you need to be looking for environments where you thrive. Now, so for example, if somebody goes and looks at my LinkedIn profile, they will see that I've been working in the information technology sector for well over 20 years. That means actually before the internet even started, I was working in IT. Now, the reason I did that was because I wanted to help people. I wanted to get people out of that having to do shit tasks and actually do something interesting. As I've always said, and I'm sure always made people laugh, there's only two good uses for a computer. One's playing games and the other one's for having some sort of fun. That's it, as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, they should be used to actually help us get rid of the boring shit. And they are actually getting to that point. Now, that is going to cause let's say, a global change, because now we've got to the point where we've got narrowband AI, which is working and can actually imitate human beings. But it means that basically the world is going to change, and the people that are left in the forefront of that are going to be the creatives. Now, if you look at people with ADHD and you're looking for where you're going to fit into the future, you're going to be looking for an environment that fits you, that is creative, and that is going to be something that the machines cannot replicate. That means you will still have something to do or be of use. I say be of use, now do mean to yourself, because the first thing you need to be is you have to actually sit down and say, right, okay, I like doing this, because if you don't, then you end up basically getting to the end of your life and wishing you'd done many a different thing. But it's one of the things that people, if you consider what we are as people, ADHDers, or I call them sentinels, and sentinels because basically they're the ones that looked after everybody else, and we tend to be people like that. They need to look for environments. So I've always looked in a particular field, and I've done many jobs and many positions, and I've also worked in my own company as well. But I've always worked in a particular field and looked for a particular environment that was a good fit for my ADHD. And that makes a big difference because it means that I'm actually playing always towards my strengths and not my weaknesses. Because if you do, it's all very well and good that you work towards something. If it's affecting your personal life, your friends, your family, you need to work on that. But otherwise, work on your strengths. Work towards or work in an environment that you've picked, and make sure that in an interview, if you happen to be an interview, if you're not an entrepreneur, that you've actually asked that question, what does it take here to succeed? And listen very, very carefully. And I know if you have ADHD, that's probably going to be quite difficult, but I always take a pad with me and I ask them before it gets to the actual interview, can I take notes? So that's what I do. In an interview, I will actually take notes because I have ADHD and I probably won't remember some of the things that I might consider important later on. So there you go. That's my piece of wisdom for today. My question to you is, do you take your environment into consideration on a daily basis in your professional and in your personal life? Is that something you actually think about? That's my question. As I said, I was going to be making sure I was going to be asking a question every time I did one of these because I really would be interested on any responses from yourself. So if you've got something, please feed it back to me. I do read the comments, believe me, and I do answer them. This is a real person. I know you look at the video, fair enough, but I do actually check them, read them myself, and I will respond to them as quick as I can. And if I do miss something, call me out on it. I've got ADHD, so tell me to pull my finger out and answer. Okay? Right. Anyway, with that, I can only say have a plan, be fun, foster wisdom wherever you see it. And with that, I can only say have a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. And as you can see, it's the evening is here, and I can hear the blackbirds, which have now stopped in the background. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.